Topic for the session is going beyond Zoho. We'll talk about some of the hidden talents, or hidden features that's part of the Zoho One's admin panel. And my name is Vivek. I'm a product manager from the Zoho directory team. The agenda for today's session is we'll talk about some of the pain points that the business owners, or specifically the IT admins, have in their day to day life about managing their users and the apps. Followed by, we'll talk about how Zoho One's admin panel can help you in solving all these challenges. And finally, we'll end up with the questions. So, most of us here must be familiar with this particular page. If you're a Zoho One customer, I'm sure you use it quite a lot of time to manage your users. If you're onboarding a new person to your business, you then add them here. You assign them applications, right? What what's something that most people are the goal for this particular session, uh, is to educate people, or educate customers. There are a lot more beyond that, because going back to the previous page, most of us use Zoho One's admin panel predominantly to manage only your Zoho apps. What we wanted to convey today is our goal today is to make sure we convey Zoho directory in itself is a workforce identity platform that helps you in managing your users, not only from Zoho's ecosystem, but across all your business entities. So have broken down all the features of Zoho directory into individual blocks. We have the users. You can manage your external apps from Zoho One's admin panel. There's a new thing that's going to be available in a couple of days, which is the device authentication. You get not only, you're not only going to log into your apps using Zoho's credentials, you can also log into your systems using Zoho's credentials. So we'll talk a lot about it in the upcoming slides. So before we get into the, talking about the features, the wide array of Zoho directory features, let's talk about what decentralized management is. Yeah, according to Okta, a business in an average uses 88 applications to manage their daily business. Zoho has got, 55 out of them covered. But then how are you going to really manage all the remaining apps, remaining 33 apps, or your external apps? The reason for decentralized management here is most of us use Zoho One's admin panel, which is Zoho directory, to manage only your Zoho's apps. As a business owner or an IT admin, to manage the non-Zoho apps, let's say if you want to manage Asana, if you want to manage something like Salesforce or something, you really have to get into each and every app to make sure you onboard your employees, you deactivate them, change their rules, all that. It typically takes the admin or the business owner. It really makes the life of the admin a lot complex. The day in, day out, they have to spend a lot of time on that. Similarly, different apps will have different security levels. And same way, the users or the employees, they have a different login experience to access various different apps. How are we really going to solve this? Zoho's directory is actually a one-stop solution, that allows you to manage your user identities, your apps, your devices, even your Wi-Fi and your printers. Again, coming back to the complexity of admins, or one major thing or one major pain point that an admin faces in their day-to-day life is managing their employees' lifecycle management. What do you mean by employee lifecycle management here? I have divided the lifecycle of an employee in an organization into 3 different categories, which is the onboarding part, which we typically call it a joiner, and then we have the mover part, and then we have the lever part. So once you figure out, someone is going to, join your organization, you then onboard uh, you then onboard them to your apps in various different places. Let's take a simple use case here. You have someone joining the sales team today, and they need access to 10 different apps. Let's call it, Zoho CRM, Zoho Desk, Zoom, G Suite, all that. The problem that the admin has here is they can provide them access to the Zoho side of apps from Zoho and admin panel, and then to provide them access to something like Salesforce or Zoom. They have to log into each and every app particularly to make sure they get access to it. Imagine this is just a case of one employee. What if you have multiple employees across multiple different streams joining in a particular day? It really makes the life of the admin a lot complex here. So we just talked about the joiner here. Moving on to the mover, which is the same sales guy you just hired in, is actually moving into the marketing team. The same guy needs access to a different set of apps. Let's call it, 15.5 or Bamboo HR or something. Again, the business owner or the IT admin must, deactivate the user from the sales side of apps and then add them to the marketing side of apps. The last part is the offboarding part, which is the most important part of these, because when an employee is leaving the organization, it is the business owner or the IT admin's duty to make sure the person does not have access to any of the company's data. When you have a decentralized management, you cannot keep a track of who has got access to what applications. When someone is leaving the organization today, you tend to, sort of deactivate the user from all the different tabs. What if, it's all common for the human error to occur. What if you fail to deactivate the user from one particular application? That's the sort of security threat I'm talking about here. You typically allow your company's data to be accessed even after someone leaving the organization. So offboarding is the most important part here. So how do we really solve this using Zoho directory? We have something called as provisioning in Zoho directory, which typically allows you to add users to multiple different apps from one single place. Let's say, just how you managed your Zoho's apps today, you can also start to manage your third-party apps, which is your non-Zoho apps, right from Zoho One or Zoho Directories admin panel. So when you onboard an employee, let's say you're onboarding an employee to the sales team, you then add them to Zoho CRM and Zoho Desk. Suppose if the employee needs access to, let's say, Asana, you can actually add the user or assign the application right from Zoho One, which will automatically add the user in Asana as well. We have a lot more customizations as part of this provisioning, which is you can also define something like, we call it the CRUD, which is create, update, and delete. You can actually define, whenever I create a user, do you want them to be automatically created in the downstream apps? Whenever I update someone, do you want them to be updated? So typically, you have a wide range of setting that allows you to customize all the downstream apps with your required setting. So let's see a quick demonstration of how the provisioning works. So for the sake of this demo, I'm logged in as admin here, and here I'm logged in as a user. So this user does not have access to, 15.5. Let me try. So this particular person does not have access to the 15.5 application. For the sake of for this particular demo, what I have done is I have integrated the 15.5 application here. So all I have to do is, as an admin, I just get into the user and click on assign app and click on 15.5. And once you assign this, the user will be automatically added to Asana. You don't have to take the pain of logging into each and every application individually, to add them to various different apps. This is about the provisioning here. And, most of us might ask a very basic question, I have assigned the user to 15.5. How about the roles and profiles? Or how about the attributes that can be sent from Zoho directory? So during the process of setting up the app, what you can do is, when you set up the provisioning, you can actually map the fields that you want to be sent from Zoho directory to the 15.5 application. Now, if you look at this, is what we call it the attribute mapping, which basically will list down all the attributes that are part of Zoho 1 as well as the 15.5. You can map whatever the attributes that needs to be sent from Zoho directory and respectively to 15.5. So this is about provisioning in Zoho 1. So far what we talked about is, the admin with a decentralized management is going through something about managing multiple different apps separately. With the provisioning feature, it makes the job of the IT admin or the business owner a lot more easier by managing a whole set of apps and the users from one particular place. So now that we have solved the pain point of the admin, how does it look from a user's perspective? So let's say you have 10, 15 employees in your organization and you onboard an employee to your sales team. So once you onboard, your employee to various different apps, so the employee will have multiple different credentials to access multiple different apps. Let's say you have 5 different non-Zoho apps and 1 Zoho app. So the employee will typically have 6 different credentials to access all the 6 different apps. It is the job of the business owner typically to make sure, you have one set of credentials. So yeah, again, as you said, multiple credentials for applications automatically, sort of leads to a lower productivity of your employees and a poor user experience and increased password fatigue. Because when you maintain multiple different passwords for multiple different accounts, what tends to happen is they start, keeping their passwords very simple, or they reuse the same password for the same applications or multiple different applications. Similarly, just to make sure they do not forget the password, they start maintaining the passwords either in a sticky note or a sheet or something. The increased password fatigue automatically leads to, contacting your IT person to get the password reset. And according to Gartner, 50% of the help desk calls are purely about managing the passwords. It's about password reset calls. So how are we going to solve this? Single sign-on, most of us would have experienced in Zoho 1. The reason being is, you log into one Zoho app, you're automatically logged into the other Zoho apps. How does it work with the external apps? So we have the concept of single sign-on using the SAML and the OpenID Connect. These are 2 industry standard protocols that potentially helps you in connecting multiple different apps. Let's say you have Asana. Once you configure the single sign-on, your employees will then just have one credential to access all the multiple different apps. So typically how that works is, it works based on trust between applications. You exchange certificates with your with your apps, which will allow all your employees to sort of log into the systems with just one credential. If I'm sounding too technical, it's not really the case. Setting up an app for single sign-on will hardly take 5 minutes of your time. Once you have set it up, you're good to go for long. So again, I'll show you a quick demo of how this works. So when you're logged in as the user, what you would mostly see here is your Zoho apps. If you're logged in as an employee, you'll have all the Zoho apps. What we have done is, for the sake of this demo again, I have set up Atlassian and 15.5. Again, it's just a one click to assign the application to the user. Once it is done, just as an employee, once he logs into Zoho's account, just by clicking on the application, the user will be automatically logged into the system. They don't have to have the pain of having to maintain multiple different passwords for multiple different applications. So how do you set it up? It's again a one-time setup process. You get into the applications module, and when you click on add application, you have the marketplace apps. Marketplace apps has got a catalog of around 500 plus apps, and if your apps are not part of this catalog, you can anytime create a custom app and configure your application. And one of the common questions that comes around is, what if the app that I use do not have SAML or OpenID Connect model? What we recommend in that particular case is, we recommend to go with the bookmarked apps. So basically that would sort of be a launcher that can be used by the employee. So they just use one particular page to access Zoho apps and the bookmarked apps. But for the bookmarked apps, you then have to enter the credentials, because the app will not support, since it does not support SAML or OpenID Connect, you then have to maintain multiple credentials. So far we have discussed about the provisioning, which makes the life of an IT admin a lot more easier, followed by the single sign-on concept, which makes it easier for an employee to access all the apps. Here comes the the pertinent question. A lot of people ask about it. I'm using a password manager. How does it differ from the concepts that you explain? There is a major difference between the single sign-on and password manager. Password manager works based on the passwords stored in a tool. And for you to store the passwords, you need one master password. If you lose the one master password, there are high possibilities that you lose access to all your stored passwords. Wherein in single sign-on, it purely works based on trust and leverage, and you might just have one credential to access all your apps. Final and the most important part about single sign-on is, you have anomaly-based logins. If you detect that a login is coming from an unknown source or from an unknown application, you can then define, or you can then block access to the application. Just reiterating here, we have talked about managing your apps, your Zoho apps, your non-Zoho apps, managing your users, all that. But then, how does your employee access their applications? They typically need a device to access their applications. So that's where device management in Zoho directory or Zoho One comes into picture. How does this basically work? Or what is device management? We are extending the solution of single sign-on from apps to your devices as well. what it does is, how it benefits is, you will just have one credential to access your device as well as your downstream apps. People typically maintain a separate password if it's a company's provided device. So the way we have solved is, your employees will just have one credential to both access your devices and your applications. It's already available if you have signed up Zoho directory as a product. So how does this Zoho or device authentication work? So basically it works based on an agent. You just download an agent and install it in the employee's machine, which then automatically will start talking back to your Zoho directory. So if you look at this screen here, we have a list of Mac and Windows devices that are connected to your Zoho directory. And along with that, you also have, the users who will be having access to the particular devices. Let's see a quick video of how the installation works. So I'm logged in as the admin here. So once I'm logged in, I get into device management. And as you can see here, there's just one device that is tied to my account so far. So what the process that I'm trying to do now is, I'm trying to enroll a new device to my Zoho directory account. So I click on the enroll device, select the device type, which will automatically download the agent to your system. And then it's the usual setup process. You have to run the PKG file. It will be a PKG file for Mac, and it's an exe file for Windows. So as it's the usual installation process that you follow in an application. So you just go through the installation steps here, and during the course of the installation, you'll be asked for the admin password, and once you enter the admin password, you'll then be asked for the installation key. So installation key is something that will be available in the place where you download the agent, because the installation key is important to make sure the agent you're installing typically ties back to the right account, not to a different account. So once you enter the installation key, and then for the password, which is the account password, the installation will be done. So let's see here. So once the installation is successful, if you move back to the user's account, you can see the new system that's added to the Zoho directory. Once, the system will now start to sync back the device information back to Zoho directory, along with lots of computer information, something like the device name, the IPv4 address, the v6 address, and a lot more. Yeah, you can also see the OS version, the hardware model, all that. So once it's installed, what you see here are the local accounts, we call it. When you install the machine the first time, or once during the course of buying the new laptop and installing the machine, you would have created some local accounts. The password is maintained locally in the systems for the login system. So these two, the local account, we call it the local accounts. So the local accounts will be synced along with the device to Zoho directory. So now that we have installed the device, it's important that we bind the particular system to an employee, right? Only then the employee will have access to that particular device. So what I have done is, this is something called as the local account name. Just go back to it. Yeah. So The local account name is something very important here that needs to be noted. Whatever the local account you have on the machine should exactly match for the user so that it starts seamless sync. So again, we go back to device management, select the device, and let's look at assigning some user to it. So I'm clicking on the local account here and I'm assigning a user. So what we are doing right now is we have installed the agent, which is syncing with your Zoho directory account. And for the device login, you need users, right? So we are basically assigning the users just like how you assign the applications. So you click on choose user and you select the user that you intend to. Once the user is assigned to the device, you'll be able to see this as password out of sync, because the password needs to be synced once in the machine to make sure they talk mutually to each other. Yeah. So the screen that you see here is of the user. The user is already logged in, and on the top bar, you get a notification that your device has been synced to Zoho directory, and that you have to sync the password once to make sure all the passwords across all the devices are in sync. So in this top menu bar, you just have to enter the password once, and once you enter the password and click on sync now, the password will start to sync with your Zoho directory. So this is the menu bar application that the users can actually use to reset their passwords. So far we have talked about installing the agents and syncing the passwords. Once the agent is installed and assigned to a user, this is how the login screen is going to be. The Zoho directory managed accounts will be labeled with the Zoho directory symbol right on top, as well as on the user account side. So the unmanaged accounts will not have the Zoho directory logo in it. And once all you have to do is you just have to enter your Zoho's account password to log into your machine as well. So this is about the installation process and assigning the device to a user. Let's move on to the next part, which is the password reset part. I'm logged in here as the user. A lot of times, users tend to forget their password, and it's the admin who has to reset the password. So the admin here is basically resetting the password for the employee. So what it does is, it typically generates a one-time password that the employee can use to log into their machines. So once the password is reset, you then share it with your employee. As soon as the password is reset, again from the menu bar application, the employee will get a prompt that your password needs to be changed, and they will be automatically locked out of the system. Now that you have to enter the one-time password provided by one-time password provided by the admin and then during the course of password reset, you can actually set a new password for your account. This is how the password reset process works with regards to device authentication. So resetting the password will also reset the password for your Zoho accounts as well. The final part about the device authentication is the deactivation part. I stressed a lot about the deactivation part being is your data should not move out once an employee leaves the organization. So again, it's quite a one-click process. You just get to the device and deactivate the employee there. As soon as the user is deactivated, the user will get a message and they will be locked out immediately. They will not be able to log in unless the account is reactivated again. So this is about the deactivation process. There are a couple of more things that we are working as part of the device authentication, which is we're also bringing in MFA for the devices, and then we are working on device trust. Device trust is basically once you log into the machine, you don't have to open the browser and key in your username and password. As soon as you're logged into the system, the browser will pick up your credentials and you'll be logged into the Zoho system automatically. And then we're also working on the passwordless sign-in for the devices as well. So far, we have talked about managing your users, managing your applications. How does that connect to your devices, right? Now that you have all together in one place, your employee has basically got one credential to access your devices, your applications, and your admin has got one place to manage all the resources tied up to an organization. So it is really important that these accounts are to be kept completely secure to make sure you do not expose your accounts to external threats. So that's where we bring in the contextual logins. We talked about this in the previous session. This is for the people who are new to this session, which is the contextual logins. You can define access to your employee login based on preset conditions. To give you with an example, I want someone to access Zoho. I want someone to access Zoho directory only from the US. If they want, or if they access from India, block them access. Or if they access from Mexico, you just ask them for an additional factor of authentication. Similarly, we have multiple different conditions here. I think someone asked me yesterday about, I do not want my users to log in beyond a particular time. I want them to be locked out of the session. We have a lot more. These are the contextual logins that are typically available as part of Zoho 1. And we also talked about a routing policy, which defines what sort of authentication mode must be used by your employees. Now, if you typically want only passwordless sign-in, or if you want to enforce passwordless login to your employees, then this is the place to do it. And finally, we also have role-based access control, which is, as your organization grows, the number of admins that you'll have in your organization will automatically increase. And not all the admins will be allowed to do all the tasks. You'll have someone from the help desk admin whose role is only to reset the password. He should not do anything beyond resetting the password. Or the other use case that I can put in is, I want this particular admin to manage only a particular set of applications. I do not want him to manage any apps beyond that. Or I want this person to manage only a particular set of people. Let's say I want person A to manage only people from the sales department. So that's when role-based access control comes into picture. So what you do is you define the role here. So let's say in users, you want them, you're okay with the admin to view the users, edit the users, but not delete the users. So you define the role here. Once you define the role, you then assign them to a user. So that is about role-based access control. And finally, we have the reports. Now that you have all of the user entities, all of your user resources in one particular place, you would ideally want to monitor all your employees' login reports. So that's when reports comes into picture. You can see when exactly your employees log into the systems, or what was their last login, what was the usage of a particular application. You have a wide array of reports in Zoho directory that you can use to monitor your employees. So, reiterating on, the first slide that we talked about, we have almost covered all the topics except the printer and the Wi-Fi. Just like how we extended the solution from apps to devices, we are extending the solution to printers and Wi-Fis. If you have printers and Wi-Fi that is maintained by your office, they then get access, or you just use your Zoho's credentials to access your printers and Wi-Fis as well. So basically, Zoho directory is a one place where you can manage all the resources, right from the login, your devices, everything to be managed from one particular place. I think that's it from my side.